This is really heavy. This here is a special delivery from EK Water Blocks. Now, recently we did a two-part little video series with Tavarish, the Tavarish YouTube channel, Freddie Hernandez, and I was so inspired by the build we ended up putting together with EK stuff and with the PC-O11 Dynamic XL from Lian Li that I decided I wanted to do something kind of similar. And I didn't want to rip off the build completely. Obviously, that's his build, that's his interpretation of what he would, what he would want out of a system that costs that much, which was pretty expensive. Mine's not gonna be anywhere near that expensive, but I still wanna use a similar case. So we've got Lian Li to send us a PC-O11 Dynamic Mini, or PC-O11 Mini, whatever they call it. Anyway, this is the Snow White edition, which looks so freaking good. And in here is all of the custom water cooling gear we're gonna need to build a super awesome system in that white chassis. We've also got a really cool distribution block from EK they make specifically for the O11 Mini, and I cannot wait to throw it all together. Stay with me. Be sure to check out Team Group T-Force Delta RGB modules for your next PC. With capacities up to 32 gigs per DIMM and frequencies up to 3600 megahertz, they'll be sure to complement any build budget. But not only that, their integrated LEDs can be controlled by various RGB software suites, so there's no need for extra clutter. Click the sponsor link below for more details. We're gonna go ahead and open this box up first so I can show you what we're working with here. Again, pretty much everything custom loop-wise in this build will be from EK. I think we're gonna use some different radiators, only because I wanted white radiators. But apart from that, full-on EK setup here. Big thanks to them for sending all of this out. I believe this is opaque, yes. So solid white coolant, which is gonna be really cool to see in the system, especially when we mix it with the dyes that I plan to mix it with. And I'll talk more about that later. We've got plenty of white fans to fit the theme, obviously. Now these fittings here are freaking awesome. These are part of their Quantum lineup, and the color here is satin titanium. Such a cool, I don't want to say muted look, but it's definitely not as flashy as like your typical nickel fittings. And I really like that. So I wanted to try these out in this build. I think it'll work really well with the white. And there's even some satin titanium looking accents on the Snow White edition of the Lian Li case. So that'll work out as well. We have a ton of fluid here. I think a lot more than we're gonna need, but doesn't hurt to have extra. And we've also got this quantum magnitude block, and it is looking mighty sexy just from the picture on the box. Can't wait to open this thing up. Again, it's gonna follow that same like white plus silver slash satin titanium theme. I think it's gonna look really good. Now the piece that's gonna bring all this together is of course the distro block, and this one is specially designed for the O11 Dynamic Mini. Look at how beautiful this thing looks. Let's get it out of the plastic here. This thing looks so good. It is the perfect size for, again, the O11 Mini, and it has an integrated D5 pump, which means it's worry-free. You don't need to worry about extra install or anything like that. It's all kind of pre-assembled. And you've got plenty of connections here that you don't all have to use. You can just use some of them, but they're kind of in line with where you would expect EK gear to be in most builds. So you shouldn't need to do any crazy, bending with a lot of your tubes to get them to run into these channels. That's one of the big benefits, I think, of a distro, apart from the fact that this looks awesome in a case that it's specifically designed for, but it also makes the tube runs very, very easy to plan around. Now, one really cool thing about this frame here, and I'm gonna kind of just be fiddling with this as I go, is that you can kind of change where things are positioned inside the chassis. So you can change where the motherboard, for instance, is positioned. Right now, it'll be positioned at the top, which is pretty standard for cases like this. But, and I'm not exactly sure how to do this. I'm just gonna kind of fiddle with it. I think if we do it like that, you can see now the rear I/O is positioned a lot further down, which means the motherboard will sit more in the center here, and we'll have plenty of space below and above the motherboard for radiators and fans, which is really cool. It only includes these top covers, optional, if of course you orient things this way. Got one more right here. It's just a really clean setup. I really like this modular design here in the O11 Mini. Just looks really, really clean. And that's something that you usually have to give up in cases like this. If it's gonna be really modular, it usually doesn't look very clean because you can tell that things aren't where they are intended to be. But here, when this layout looks stock, from the back it looks really good, and same goes for the front side of this, which, well, half of it's cut off by the camera. But up top, I mean, you wouldn't know that this used to be where the motherboard was positioned, so really cool. And here are the remaining components. Gigabyte actually sent quite a bit, so they sent the Z590i Vision D, which is the latest Z series chipset board from Intel. We're gonna be pairing that with an 11900K, which, let's be honest, isn't the best value chip on the market, but nonetheless I have it and I have a board for it. And this board has really cool accents, actually like true white accents on it. So that's why I wanted to pair it with this case. So we're going with the 11900K, just deal with it, okay? Gigabyte also sent an Aorus RTX 3060. Now this is a black model, not a white model. White would have been perfect, but I do have a solution for the black accents on this card in the cables, which I'll reveal a bit later. As for power, Be Quiet sent their SFX-L power supply, 600 watt, 80 plus gold unit bit. Thanks to them for sending this out such late notice. I really appreciate that, you guys. T-Force, these are extreme ARGB modules. Be careful not to flip these around. But these are in white from Team Group and they look really good. I think this is gonna look really nice with the white accents on the Gigabyte board. And I think that's it. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh yeah, we have the Corsair drive. So this is I believe it's a 2 terabyte Gen 4 NVMe drive, and Intel finally supports Gen 4 drives, and this board does as well. Obviously, it's the latest Z series chipset motherboard for Intel, and so yeah, we're gonna pair this with the Gigabyte board here to get those full Gen 4 speeds out of this drive, not limited by Gen 3 anymore on Intel side, which is it's a relief, I'll say that. So with all that out of the way, I'm gonna show you one big time lapse of this build here. Not gonna be a 2 or 3 parter. I don't like dragging things out like this if I can help it. Unless something unforeseen comes up that just prevents me from finishing what I wanted to finish in one video, you'll see the finished product at the end. But don't fast forward, I guarantee you'll enjoy the build process as well with some sweet music. Here we go. Well, I know I promised you one solid video for this entire build. That unfortunately is not going to happen. As is usually the case with custom builds, I forgot a few things. A few things were kind of miscommunicated between myself and EK, and that's really nobody's fault. I'm still waiting on a few 90-degree fittings in the satin titanium color here. I love the way that these fittings look. They look so good with this white case here. But we're missing a few of those, and it makes it very easy to have those 90-degree fittings because then you could just have straight shot, you know, tube runs straight into this distro up front. I love the distro. That, in my opinion, makes this build. The thing that I'm probably a bit on edge about is the graphics card. It is just so... it's so big, and it's not the same color as everything else. I mean, it's very dark compared to a lot of these lighter components in here. Thankfully, the cables, I told you you love the cables, those really came in handy. I think that the black accents in these cables really offsets this very large card and kind of breaks up the colors a bit nicer than otherwise would have if they were just solid white. But the other thing that I'm going to do that I didn't tell you about is I'm going to use opaque white coolant, but I'm going to dye it with a bit of red dye from EK, and that should make it solid pink. So opaque pink is what I'm going for to pretty much match as close as we can the pink in these cables. So that, in my opinion, will set this entire build off. So it won't just be a kind of monochromatic white and black theme. It will have a lot of very prominent pink in it as well, which will look really cool. You know, I've been doing a lot of Walter White builds lately. I think we're on like Walter White version 5. I think the next one would be version 6. That's just, I've kind of milked that character in Breaking Bad for all he's worth, and that's tough to say because Heisenberg is awesome. But I figured, you know, change things up a bit. Why not build a Jesse Pinkman build? It doesn't have to be totally pink. There's still a lot of Walter White in this build, and Walter White was largely in control of the entire operation in Breaking Bad. If you haven't seen that show and you have no idea what I'm talking about, what are you doing, you uncultured swine? But anyway, paying homage to Jesse Pinkman finally in my little PC build themes that I've been carrying on for years will be pretty cool. So hopefully that pink coolant works out. Worst case though, I'll ditch the pink and I'll just stick with the white opaque coolant, which would I imagine still look pretty good here. And having a bit of pink in the cables just kind of sets things off. So I'm having a really enjoyable time building in the O11 Mini. This is such a fantastic case. I can't give it enough praise, honestly. One of the best cases I've ever built in. It is so versatile. I love how compact it is. I love how easy it is to cable manage at the rear. I mean, this isn't even the best cable management job I probably could have done. There's still a few cables just kind of hanging around the sides on the bottom. And yeah, it still manages to look really good with this cable bar installed. So great job, Lian Li, and of course, Der Bauer's input there. Just a fantastic case. Cannot wait for part 2 when we finally install the tubes and the remaining fittings and get that pink opaque coolant in here. That's gonna look so awesome. I hope. I don't know. You never really know until you actually add the coolant, but I think pink is gonna work wonders for this build. So if you guys want to find any of the parts that I've used in this build, you can find them in the video description. Those are tied to our Amazon affiliate links. We do get a small kickback if you buy anything through those links. I appreciate that support there. The graphics card's probably the only thing you're going to struggle to get. The Snow edition of the O11D here might be a bit tricky to get, but I'll link the O11 Mini, O11 Dynamic, maybe even the XL if you want to kind of play around with sizes. All of those cases are fantastic for the money. Lian Li has been making some great stuff as of late. So with that, be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you thought it was cool. If you liked the build, be sure to subscribe if you have not already, and stay tuned for the next video. My name is Greg. Thanks for being patient with me. Sorry that this is a two-parter. Thanks for building with me.